This is tutorial 1, level 1 on Autumn Leaves. Autumn Leaves is one of the most used pieces of music for jazz education. It's also a fantastic tune and has been recorded by many of the greats, Miles Davis, Keith Jarrett and many others. I'm going to explain why it's such a great tune, not only because it sounds really good, but also harmonically it's really interesting. But in some ways it's also quite simple, and once you've understood it, it should be relatively easy to start improvising on it. One of the common sequences in jazz is 2-5-1, and this tune is made up of a 2-5-1 in a major key and a 2-5-1 in the relative minor. I'm playing in concert, and so my key is B flat major. The relative minor is G minor. I'm going to play the chords of Autumn Leaves and call out what they are in terms of chords 1, 2, 5, etc. The first chord, 2, 5, 1, 4, and at that point we're now going towards the relative minor. So I will talk in that key, 2, 5, 1. That's the first A section. Then that's repeated, and then we get the middle 8. Something interesting happens in the middle 8. We get chord 2 of the minor, chord 5, chord 1. And then we get chord 2 of the major key, followed by 5, followed by chord 1, followed by chord 4. And then we get the last 8 bars, which starts with a chord 2 of the minor key, 2, 5, 1. And then we get repetition of that, 2, 5, 1. Is this piece in a major or a minor key? And I think what you have to think about is, where does it end up? It ends up in the minor key, so it's in the minor key, but there are a lot of chords that pull towards a major key. So there is this kind of juxtaposition between the major and the minor. And in fact, the whole thing can be reduced to basically a 2-5-1 in the major, a 2-5-1 in the minor. And that's really all that happens in this tune. Now you might think, oh, I've heard lots of versions of this, but they do something else. Yes, they do, but it's all, it's pulling it around, it's making it more interesting. But if you come down to the basics, that's what it is. And you can play it with those chords and it sounds pretty good. So what you really need to know is the scale of the major and the minor. So I'm going to play the major scale, which is B flat major in my key. So this is the major key. When I play the minor scale, if I kept it with the same key signature, it would sound like this, which technically is a mode called the Aeolian mode or the natural minor. So I'm going to add an accidental, that's an extra sharp, and that's the end note, the 7th note, which we call the leading note, and that sounds like this. That is called the harmonic minor. I could investigate the melodic minor, and that has a natural 6, so that would sound like this. And those are the basic scales that work in this piece. I'm mostly going to use the major scale and the harmonic minor when I improvise. So the only extra note that I've put in is the leading note of the minor key. Well, actually that is kind of our home key. and that makes chord 5 a dominant chord. Okay, so if we're in our key, it's in my key, it's G minor. The dominant is chord 5. If I didn't have that sharp, accidental, it would sound like this. Which is, you know, it is used in music, but it sounds stronger with the major third. So that's raised 7th. If I add a 7th to it, it's even stronger. So this idea of dominant, which I've explained in other tutorials, is really a good way to make chords feel like they're really pulling to each other. So you can put in a dominant chord at the end of the first 8 bars, and that has the effect of pulling to the next chord. So at the end of the first 8 bars, we come to rest in the relative minor, or the minor key. When we restart the sequence, because it's 2 A sections, we come back to chord 2. If we made the minor chord, the chord 1 and the minor, if we change the chord type to make it a dominant 7th, therefore raising the third to make it a major third, and adding a 7th, the pull to chord 2 is much stronger. So I'll show you how that sounds. I'll just do the last 4 bars. So the 2, 5, 1 into the minor key. Oops, let's do that one again. Now I did a 9th there. I'll try that one more time, making it really straightforward. And we went back to our chord 2. So I am playing a dominant 7th to make that pull really strong. The end of the sequence can also have that chord. So here's the last 4 bars of the sequence. And then we're back to the top again. So the use of that dominant 7th chord can be really useful to make the music sound pretty good. So I'm going to just finish this first tutorial by improvising on the sequence, just using some of those ideas that I've introduced there. Note, if you're going to play the dominant 7th at the end, you might like to put in some notes that fit that chord. So I might alter my scale and put maybe a B natural in. That's going to be there for just a few seconds, so you probably won't notice it that strongly. Okay. There's a really obvious arpeggio there at the end. So that completes level 1, tutorial 1 on autumn leaves.